Someone asked, and I forgot to record who, how do the commissioners and the administrator interact? Do they work together on a daily basis? How are duties, responsibilities divided, and are there checks and balances?
So the city administrator would report directly to the mayor, but would also sit in on city council meetings. But the city council would not instruct the city administrator. They would pass policy that would then be carried out by the city administrator under the authority of the mayor.
Okay. And what are term lengths of mayor and councilor? How often are elections held? Would they be staggered?
4 years, and yes. So we really went around and around on the staggered issue, but finally decided that 4 years was too long to wait for, some sense of change. And so the mayor is elected, they're all elected for 4 years. And each district election would be at once. So all 3 councilors would be chosen at a single time. The way that it will be selected, which districts run in which year is, and this is in the charter, the 2 districts with the biggest voter turnout will be elected in the non-presidential year. The 2 districts with the lower voter turnout will be elected in the presidential year. That's because the high voter turnout people already turn out. So we're trying to encourage more voice by those people in the lower voter turnout areas.
So how do you tick that off? Would 2 districts elect and then you'd wait 2 years to elect the next 2, or would you do a 2-year term on the first election?
Yes, to the second part of what you said.
Okay.
So if this passes, the people who are elected now will serve 2 years. And then in 2 years, this whole system will be in place. And at that point, they will elect some of those people for 4 years and some for 2.
Someone asked, Portland has some 90 neighborhood associations. How would they relate to the 4 districts? Presumably they represent local interests already, but who represents the citywide perspective?
First of all, we have a mayor that represents the citywide perspective. But beyond that, another reason that we didn't look at the smaller districts is we looked at the example of San Francisco, where when they went for much smaller districts, there was more NIMBYism. By having larger districts, there is a more variety of the kind of interests that are within a district. I'm sorry, Don, can you repeat the beginning of that question again?
That Portland has some 90 neighborhood associations.
How do they connect? So the districts must, by terms that we put together, they must be compact, they must be contiguous, they are not allowed to break any communities of interest. That means they would not be able to drive right through the middle of a neighborhood association. Just like we currently have neighborhood associations, but we always also have neighborhood district coalitions, it would be something like that. They'd all be the same size in terms of population, or as close thereof that you can get.
It wouldn't be the gerrymandering wiggle, but is there any chance you can't create 4 equal districts? I mean, they're going to have some difference in shape, obviously.
So there's something you can go to online. I don't remember where I found it. Someone sent it to me. And I just had a really good time doing it. Let's see if I can find it here in my notes. Yeah. Okay. This is go to a more equitable democracy. And if you go there, you can form districts. So I went there, and just on the basis of Portland and the last census, and I need 4 districts that are the same size. You start moving little pieces around. And the first thing that I discovered, and this is pretty funny because I'm from the West Side, you cannot form 1 district out of the West Side because we're not big enough. We're less than 1/4 of the city. So the only way to form a West Side district was to also take Selwood and Eastmoreland. And then we have a West Side district, but it doesn't. So the way that we've mostly looked at it, because it must be compact, remember, so it can't be a wiggle, is really two, I don't think I have that right there, two up on the east side like this, more like one northeast, one far southeast, one closer southeast, and one west. That kind of thing works, but that's how it ends up being.
Okay.
But I think that definitely far southeast will be a district.
Are there any other questions?
Yeah, I just wanted to have some clarity on when if this is approved on the ballot, Melanie, the first opportunity we would have to vote on this would be in 2 years?
Yes, so if it's approved, the districting commission goes to work immediately. And they should be able to have the district set by, I'm going to say, September or so of 2023. And the first election that you would have would be in 2024.
Okay.
Oh, I should also mention that we've mandated a salary commission, and they have to be made up of HR professionals who know about salaries, because right now the way it works is the city council votes its own salary. And we felt that it would be more appropriate to have an external commission and look at what comparable cities are paying to their city councilors. That also would kick in right away.
Melanie, I have another one. Is there a plan for redistricting as well? And how would that be handled? With a citizen panel?
Yes, every 10 years. Every
10 years?
time we have a new census.
Okay, based on the census.
Okay, and I also see here that there's a question about sharing your PowerPoint presentation, Melanie.
I'm happy to do that.
I can distribute it through our United Power, through the, I know who attended this meeting. I can distribute it that way, unless you lead me in another way.
Catherine, I'm happy with that. I will just email it to you. I'm not so tech savvy that I can put it on the chat right now. I'll
Yeah.
email it to you and you can.
That's great.
send
And
it
we'll
out.
distribute it to the RSVPs. Great, thank you.
I did happen to glance and see a chat that raised the issue of cost. So I'll spend a minute on that, but I have to be honest with you and say it's pretty wide right now because there's so many unknowns. We have asked the city to come up with cost estimates, but I can tell you what we know at this point. They have been, and the estimates they've given us do not account for any cost savings. So the cost savings of having district offices in the districts, by the way, the counselors from the districts must live in those districts and their office will be in that district. The savings from having a city administrator instead of this arcane system we have now, none of that, or even this from not having to have a primary election, none of that is considered. But in terms of absolute cost, for ongoing cost of the proposed reforms, they have given us a range, which is huge, of between 950,000, which is their low point, to 8.5 million, which is their high point. In terms of the low point, I just read in the Oregonian a couple days ago that the amount of money the city council has paid out in the last year to 4 employees that they hired and had to fire is 860,000. This would be 90,000 more than that. But for you to know, even at the highest point, that is 1.4% of what's called the discretionary budget. The discretionary budget is about 10% of the city budget. So it's about 0.14% of the budget. It would not lead to any additional taxes. And that's on the high end.
Okay.
A couple more have come in if you have the time, Melanie. One is, do we have the computer equipment to do this ranked choice voting, or is that something we'll invest in?
I think that is being developed right now. As you know, Multnomah County also had a charter commission, and they have are putting ranked choice voting to the electorate. I do think it's the wave of the future. Right now, 43 jurisdictions in the US have ranked choice voting. Next year, it will have 55. A lot of the people on the no side are saying things, it's too complicated for Portlanders. And I like to point out, well, they've got it in Benton County, so I guess they're smarter in Benton County than we are here in Portland. Somehow I think we can manage it.
Someone asked also, Bill asked, are there any recent polls on the likelihood of this passing?
No, not on that particular question. Wait, let me rephrase. Not that I know of. I think, and this is just my opinion, personal opinion, I think that one of the reasons that the Portland Business Alliance and their supporters want to separate it is because they're concerned that the whole package will pass. And they are not as happy with having district representation or more counselors. As I have even been told by some, right now, if we want to bring someone around to, approving our development, we only need to speak to 4. Now we'd have to speak to 12. And I am very sympathetic to the difficulty that they're facing, but that I do not believe is the basis of what Portlanders should elect.
So the process here is that it is approved by city council first and then goes to ballot. Is that right?
Sort of, but not exactly. It's completely pro forma. So unlike in past times where city council did have to approve it, this was, if we could get a super majority who voted in favor, and we did, 17 out of 20 of us voted for this, that it would go straight to the voters. Now, it did go through city council, but only, they were not allowed to change it. They just had to say, we're passing it on.
So then it will appear on a regular November ballot at some point. Someone's asking, how do you find out whether you'll be able to vote on this or when you'll be able to vote on this?
I know when. Well, if it passes the legal test, it will be in the regular November ballot. And I hear that November ballot is going to be a long one. So please look all the way to the end. This may be the last measure. I beg you, be patient. Forget all those judges that are unopposed and move straight to this one. In terms of will it, so as Catherine pointed out, it's going to be heard in tomorrow. I've heard that, I'm looking at my calendar, that the judge should have an answer by the 19th, which is next Friday. I hope it is sooner than that. And it's going to be big news. You'll hear.
You're getting lots of praise in the chat, Melanie. Thank you.
I'm really sad because while I'm talking, I can't read the chat. If you could forward the chat to me, I'd love it.
Let's see what I can do. I'm not an expert at this either, but I'll try.
That's all we can do. That's all we can do.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Melanie. Great presentation. I'm enlightened. We're all enlightened. And I personally feel what you've put together here is something that is going to move us forward in Portland. So thank you for your time today. Thank you for everybody showing up for this meeting and being a part of this. And we will send out to everybody the PowerPoint as soon as I get it.
I want to thank Marina for reaching out to me. Really appreciate it.
Yeah,
Marina.
thank you, Marina.
Yeah, thank you.
And thanks all of you for taking some time out of your afternoon and taking this seriously. And if any of you belong to other organizations, whether it be a neighborhood association or anything else, and just let me know and I'll come out and talk to them as well.